Mr. Speaker. I open my speech by acknowledging the Creator and Yeshua, my King. I am grateful again to be on Treaty 4 territory and to stand in this House speaking to this Assembly on behalf of my constituents in Yorkton in response to this year's budget. Mr. Speaker, a strong economy is the bedrock of a flourishing province, and our government's history of responsible, reliable, sound fiscal management ensures that our province has the framework to see long-term, sustainable prosperity for generations to come. There are many things to talk about with this budget, and over the next 20 minutes I will. But let me start by saying that we are facing extraordinary, challenging, and uncertain times. We have the threat of U.S. tariffs looming over our province. We have 100% Chinese tariffs placed on some of our province's primary exports, canola, pork, and peas. We are now in a federal election, and previous to this, we had a federal government that over the past 10 years has been unsympathetic and unsupportive of our industries, communities, and our reality of life here in Saskatchewan. There are many challenges that are compounding, and I regret they seem to be converging on our great province and quite significantly on my constituency, Yorkton. Yorkton has 3 of Saskatchewan's largest canola crush plants that employ hundreds of workers in our region: Grain Millers, Richardson, and LDC. Together, these companies have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into our region and have helped put us on the map as an agri-food economic powerhouse. Mr. Speaker, the targeted and punitive Chinese tariffs threaten our industries, our livelihoods, and our community. If prolonged, these tariffs will be devastating to our farmers, producers, and workers, and to the local businesses that rely on a strong primary and secondary sector to generate the spending that keeps them open. And do you know what the rub is, Mr. Speaker? I've heard it over and over from many a frustrated constituent. The rub is that these Chinese tariffs, or counter-tariffs more accurately, are there because our federal government unnecessarily provoked China, one of our largest trading partners, with 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs, all to protect a heavily subsidized, virtually non-existent EV industry in Canada East. And who is paying the price? Saskatchewan farmers, Saskatchewan businesses, Saskatchewan workers and families. On this, Ottawa has been silent and apathetic. Hardly an article in the news about it either. To this, I ask, and my constituents ask, where is Team Canada? Team Canada is a wonderful sounding catchphrase. It invokes feelings of pride and patriotism. It evokes sentiments of unity and togetherness. Yet for many of my constituents who are keenly aware of how our federal Liberal NDP government has remorselessly targeted and penalized Saskatchewan's way of life, the use of the words Team Canada doesn't have quite such an appeal. Mr. Speaker, as a nation, we need to get our own house in order. Donald Trump did not invent the abuse of power. Long before he took office, long before U.S. tariffs loomed large over our province and nation, this Saskatchewan Party government was taking on abusive policies and rhetoric from our own Prime Minister, backed by the NDP, I might add. Mr. Speaker, perhaps we should look in our own backyard here in Canada if we want the Team Canada rhetoric to have more meaning. For many of my constituents, when Ottawa or news agencies or even our own official opposition who are on record opposing Saskatchewan First policies, when they use the word Team Canada, what many of my constituents hear is Team Canada East. Now, it's not that my constituents are not patriotic, far from it. These men and women are some of the most patriotic people you'll ever meet. They're farmers, truckers, business owners, blue-collar workers, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas. They know the meaning of a hard day's work, and it's in their DNA to help their fellow man. When they give and share, which they always do, it's not because they've had it easy, it's because they've had it hard, and they know the value of generosity. Mr. Speaker, these are the people I've spoken with who feel that in the past 10 years, Canada has forgotten them. There is a strong sentiment that Canada, or more accurately, Canada East, has long been negligent and indifferent to the Western provinces. And to add insult to injury, the insinuation from any politician, East or West, the insinuation that if we don't wholeheartedly and unquestioningly agree to have our province, our industry suffer disproportionately higher, that we are somehow not a team player, that we are not patriotic. Mr. Speaker, I reject that outright, and I resent the notion. So, while it's heartwarming to see the official opposition donning jerseys and cheering Team Canada, it's also more than slightly insulting to hear them parroting CBC talking points. Mr. Speaker, am I saying that they're disingenuous? Far from it. This opposition has been cheering the federal Liberal NDP's antagonistic vision of Canada for years now. But it begs the question, and I do wonder, are they on Team Saskatchewan? Where were the cheers when our government advocated for Energy East, Keystone XL, and Northern Gateway pipeline projects? Projects that would have been a boon to our economy, to our nation, something that would have benefited so many Saskatchewan families and workers. Where were the chants when our government, showing prudence and foresight, opened trade offices abroad that diversified our export markets, putting us in a stronger position to face what we're facing today? Where were the elbows when our government stood up for Saskatchewan homeowners against the Liberal NDP carbon tax? Oh, right, Mr. Speaker. They were opposing us every step of the way. They voted against these projects, opposed our market-expanding initiatives, and criticized our efforts to protect our own. Where, I ask, Mr. Speaker, where was the unity when it was Saskatchewan on the line? Crickets, Mr.
Okay. He is making statements that get everybody stirred up, but let's listen carefully. I appreciate the chatter, but please continue on, member. Let's keep it. Otherwise, I'll have to call it. So let's keep it fairly quiet so everybody can hear. Please.
Where was the unity when it was Saskatchewan on the line? Crickets, Mr. Speaker. No cheers, no chants, no elbows or jerseys, no noble notions of unity. Not when it was Saskatchewan we were fighting for. Again, let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, this government, our government, has been fighting for and championing Saskatchewan from the very first day we occupied this side of the House. I said it during my campaign, and I will say it here. I am in this role to put Saskatchewan first. I am part of this government to put Saskatchewan families, Saskatchewan farmers, Saskatchewan businesses, and Saskatchewan workers first, first, first. Mr. Speaker, it is within this context and against this backdrop that I give my response to this year's budget. Remarkably, this is a balanced budget. Yes, Team Saskatchewan, and I would perhaps invite the opposition to show their support for Team Saskatchewan by coming and wearing blue and declaring that they will vote for a government, a Conservative government, that will actually support the pipelines and the industries that they now claim to support. Mr. Speaker, this is a strong, fiscally responsible budget by a strong, fiscally responsible government. At a time of great uncertainty and challenge, we in this province find ourselves in a position of economic and fiscal strength. It is why we have the second highest credit rating among the provinces, why we can boast the second highest rate of growth, why we have the second lowest net debt to GDP ratio. This is no accident. We are in this position because of our government's strong, reliable track record of sound fiscal management. Now let's talk about a piece of that last indicator for a moment, debt. This year's budget includes debt, as has been mentioned. Now, I don't want to assume that everyone listening to me understands budgets. Alas, I make no claim to be an expert myself, Mr. Speaker. However, I did take finance in my undergrad, and so for the benefit of those who could use a refresher, and perhaps most especially for the member from Mount Royal, Regina, Mount Royal, I invite you to return with me to first-year university. Finance 101. The first thing you learn is that not all debt is equal. There is good debt and there is bad debt. Let me break it down for you a little more. We know this from our...
Sorry. Order, please. Continue.
We know this from our personal lives. Most of us know that credit card debt is bad debt. But what about borrowing to purchase a home? This type of debt would be considered good debt. Why? Because we are borrowing from future earnings, yes. Why? To acquire use of an asset in the present. And if you have strong credit and sufficient stable earnings to service your debt, Well, that's called investing. Mr. Speaker, that is exactly what this government has done. We've invested. We've invested into assets that the Saskatchewan people need right now. Just as you and I most likely did not wait until we saved up $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 before buying a house, so too this government recognizes that building healthcare centres, long-term care homes, urgent care centres, highways and schools, that work needs to start now. The people of Saskatchewan cannot, should not, and need not wait for the province to save up the entire amount before benefiting from access to critical infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, utilizing serviceable debt to invest in capital projects is good fiscal management. Again, I say this is a strong, fiscally responsible, balanced budget by a strong, fiscally responsible, and reliable government. Now to the good stuff. There are so many good things in this budget. As with all budgets, the goal is to try to do the most for the most for the most. The most possible good for the most possible people for the most important needs. And let me say, this budget delivers for the people of Saskatchewan and for the folks in my constituency. At a time when affordability remains a top concern for families, seniors, and young people, this budget delivers real relief. The largest personal income tax reduction since 2008 will benefit every single taxpayer in Saskatchewan. This means more money in the pockets of families and individuals trying to get ahead. Mr. Speaker, it's here. I want to take a minute to tell you about Alexis, one of my constituents. Earlier this month, I had the privilege of delivering remarks at a Habitat for Humanity Key ceremony. And I was so pleased to learn that the recipient of this new home was a wonderful, deserving single mom who my wife and I know because our daughters play together. With 3 beautiful daughters of her own, Alexis is an incredible, courageous woman. She's a dedicated mom and a hard worker. And I have permission to say this. I have her permission to say this. She's been to hell and back. So that day, to see her standing up there, still standing, I should say, still here, still fighting for herself and for her kids, and to see her get those keys to her new home, it was a moment that I'm so grateful to have been part of, and a moment that recognized that Alexis is not only a fighter, she's not only still standing, she is winning. Why do I share this, Mr. Speaker? Because budgets aren't just about numbers, they're about people. It's people like Alexis that we are here to serve. And there are so many stories like hers, stories that matter. That's why we are cognizant, Mr. Speaker, that when we build these budgets, it's for people like Alexis. These are her hard-earned tax dollars, and this budget delivers for her, and the many people like her, each with their own unique lives. So what can Alexis expect from this year's budget? First, she will see a reduction in her provincial income tax. She'll be able to claim a higher exemption amount for herself and a higher amount for each of her 3 children, saving her hundreds on her taxes. Now let's say maybe Alexis wants to put her children in recreational activities this year, maybe dance or soccer. Well, with the Active Families benefit, she can now get back $300 in tax credits for each child. That's double what it was last year, and for Alexis, with 3 children, the Active Family benefit could mean up to $900 back in her pocket. Mr. Speaker, Alexis also put herself through school to become an LPN, and if she hasn't done so already, she may qualify for a graduate retention rebate program, a program that reimburses post-secondary graduates for a portion of their tuition through tax credits when they continue working in this province. For Alexis, if she were to receive this tax credit on her 2-year program, it could mean as much as $7,680 in her pocket. Let's see what else there is. Alexis is also a new homeowner, and her home is a new build. With our PST rebate on newly built homes, Alexis and Habitat for Humanity could potentially have saved up to 42% on the PST of the cost of the construction, which would equate to about $5,000, assuming average home prices in the area. That's $5,000 Alexis would not need to amortize. Also, as a first-time home buyer, Alexis might qualify for the first-time homebuyer tax credit. This year's budget sees a 50% increase to that amount, going from $1,075 to $1,575. That's $1,575 that first-time home buyers like Alexis can get back through their tax credits. This is money back in your pocket, Mr. Speaker. And there's more. This year's budget decreases the education property tax mill rate on all property classes, including residential, like Alexa's new home. This means Alexis will pay less in property tax this year over last year, all things equal. These are some of the direct benefits the budget delivers to individuals and families like Alexis. When you add that all up, it starts to impact in the tens of thousands in tax relief. That's real relief, Mr. Speaker. That's meaningful for a single working mom. Mr. Speaker, going through this budget, I'm starting to feel like it reads like the thank yous at the Grammy Awards. There's a mention for everyone. I'd like to mention SIS, SAID, disability tax credit, caregiver tax credit, increase, 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 increase. Oh, who else am I missing? Oh yes, I'd like to thank the budget for raising the senior supplement amount by $500, seniors personal care home. I didn't forget you. You're going up by $1,000 to $3,500. Long-term care homes, I know you're going to like that one. It makes you more affordable to seniors and helps stabilize your occupancy. And how can I forget small businesses? Your tax rate is getting locked in at 1%, so you can keep doing what we know you do best, being the backbone of our local economy and indispensable members and contributors in our community. Small businesses, we couldn't do what we do without you. Also got to give a shout out to healthcare. $8.1 billion. Wow, what a record. Look how far we've come. From so many locations closing down before we started, to now 6 new hospitals and over 15 new long-term care homes, and now this record-breaking investment. Even over last year's record-breaking investment, and I've got to tell the folks who didn't catch that, that's a budget increase. This is where people can applaud, Mr. Speaker, as I get rushed off stage. But there's still so much more. How about the flash CGM monitors, vital for individuals living with diabetes? Well, that's now covered for everyone age 25 and under and age 65 and older. Want to renovate your home? You can get a $420 tax credit for that, and even more if you're a senior. Go ahead, renovate your home and help stimulate the economy. We'll do our part and cut back your taxes if you do. Municipalities, we're going to share even more of our PST revenues with you this year, because that's how much we love you, and we know you spell love, F-U-N-D-S. Sincerely, Mr. Speaker, we know how much this program matters to our municipalities, townships, and RMs. This year, Yorkton will receive over $4 million from our provincial government, no strings attached. Parents, we're going to invest in K-3 literacy to give your child the best start he or she can get, because we know literacy levels are an early indicator of future success. Mr. Speaker, there is so much more in this budget, it's impossible to unpack in this short time. But before I finish, I must return to healthcare because I know how much it matters to so many in my constituency. Mr. Speaker, this year's record investment into healthcare is aimed at providing the people of Saskatchewan with better, more timely access to acute and emergency care, team-based primary care, and continuing care services. A key focus of the spending will be on reducing surgical wait times, and there's also investment under education to increase residencies and train downstream professionals in therapeutic fields, an area many constituents have told me is crucial for recovery and aftercare. We also see funding for 60 new training seats for nurse practitioners, bringing the total to more than 900 seats overall in this province. This investment is a great move for our province, as more and more people are learning and experiencing the incredible quality care nurse practitioners provide. Furthermore, a $7.4 million investment will allow the College of Medicine to add more in-province training seats for family medicine, anesthesia, and other specialties, bringing the total to 150 provincial seats. This integration between post-secondary and healthcare helps create the efficiencies Saskatchewan residents want to see. Mr. Speaker, this budget delivers on the needs of everyday Saskatchewan people. It supports families, strengthens our businesses, expands access to healthcare, enhances community safety, and much more. It is a strong, fiscally responsible, balanced budget by a strong, fiscally responsible, reliable government. It is a budget that delivers for the people of Saskatchewan. Mr. Speaker, I will be supporting the budget, and I will not be supporting the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.